to me. It's definitely special because as a child, I thought like a child, I talked like a child, and I reasoned like a child. However, as a man, I've learned to put childish ways behind me. I made a decision to rise above my surroundings and take responsibility for my future. And in doing just that, I became a minority amongst minorities, and I'm going to explain. Did you guys know that in Chicago, somewhere between 30 and 35% of black males graduate from high school? Of that 35%, only 5% of us go on to earn bachelor's degrees before we're 25 years old. Now, I got this information from 2 graduate level research reports done recently by University of Chicago and Northeastern University. So if you want to check the validity of the statements, then I encourage you to do so. But really, regardless if the stats are skewed 5 or 10% in either direction, the results, they're still unacceptable. 35%? That's unacceptable. And it also proves that there's an inadequate educational system in place that's gearing our young black men towards the future. Right? What type of future can they expect to have without a high school diploma? If you're a cashier right now, or if you're bagging groceries, you should feel the heat on your back. You should feel stressed because technology is taking over your career field. Do you think that these general managers don't notice the impact that these self-checkout machines are having on their bottom line? They might be a little scared about the initial $25,000 investment for the machines, but probably pay for themselves after a year. Manufacturing jobs, they're being shipped overseas, they're not coming back. Assembly line jobs are being shipped overseas, they're not coming back. The minimum wage in Chicago is $330 a week. A major manufacturing company, Foxconn in China, they pay their employees $280 a month. And they just fought for that last month, actually. That was a raise, $280 per month. You can't compete with that. You see? What are you going to do? Blame the CEOs? You can't blame them. The conversation needs to be had with the people that create the rules that these businesses are operating under. And once you have a conversation with them, you'll see that those are the same people that allocate federal budget money to Chicago public school systems. Now, I'm not telling you all this information to discourage you or to alarm you, but rather to awaken you from slumber. We can't continue to sit silently and allow these type of stats and data to be put out there. It's unacceptable. I know I won't stay silent. It's up to us to be role models to the teens in our communities. It's up to us to inform them, because a lot of them, they're just unaware. They're unaware of our ancient struggle, and they're also unaware of the price a lot of people paid so they can have an opportunity to go to these fine universities. They have no frame of reference. Change doesn't come without action. We all preach it. 2008, we all voted for Barack Obama. He promised us change. In my neighborhood, it was vibrant. We were lined up, single file line down the street. Everybody was enthusiastic. That was 4 years ago. There hasn't been that much community enthusiasm until a couple months ago when Garrett's Popcorn opened up. Same lines down the street. News coverage, right? Later on this year, we're all going to go do the same thing. We're going to vote for Obama again because he is creating change, and also because he's the only candidate that's fighting for the middle class, right? So we're going to vote for him and support him. But what are we going to do the other 3 years and 300 odd days he's in office to make change happen? You see, political support, voting for government action, is not a substitute for community level involvement. I'll explain. Just like you wouldn't expect big city government to shovel your snow or to mow your lawn, we shouldn't expect big city government to be role models to the teens in our communities. That's our responsibility. It's up to us to take these teens outside of their everyday environment and show them what else the world has to offer. Show them what it's like to be a pilot. Let them join the Young Eagles program, which is a branch of the Tuskegee Airmen. That's right here in Chicago. They give teens their first airplane ride for free. Let them join programs like Swish Dreams, which was started by a Howard graduate named Josh Mercer. If It teaches young men math and science skills by using basketball. Go to switchdreams.org and check it out. We have to take them with us downtown and let them job shadow a bank executive or an electronic trader or an architect. You see, the sad truth is so many of our teens have never even left Chicago. How can we expect them to be anything different than athletes and MCs when that's the only thing they've been exposed to? Now, I was the same way, so I'm not saying there's anything wrong with wanting to be those things. I was the same way. In high school, every time a Nas album came out, I skipped school like it was a holiday. Those are Nas, Cormega, were my role models when I was a teen. I had no frame of reference. You see, I graduated from alternative high school. And for those of you who don't know, alternative high school is they offer a non-traditional curriculum and a more flexible program of study. That's just a cute way of saying it's where you go when the public schools don't want you. They label you a misfit or a menace to society. So they really send you to an alternative school because that's your last alternative. And that's where I graduated from. And no, I don't share the same, feelings about the students that go to alternative schools, or I don't have those stereotypes, because I know when you're 15, 16, and 17 and you have no frame of reference, you can only live what you know. And those are the only things that I wanted to be, a basketball player and a rapper. See? But I remember the actual day that I began to dream bigger than my surroundings. I was in this alternative school with a more flexible program of study, and I was doing a presentation on Stonehenge in England. And my professor, or my teacher, he stopped me and he said, "Jahmal, I don't want you to do Stonehenge. I want you to do a presentation on the pyramids in Egypt, because that's your heritage. I want you to know that. You don't do Stonehenge. Do Egypt, that's from Africa." I was blown away. I said, hold on 1 second. Egypt's not in Africa. This is how I was thinking at that time. I said, Egypt's not in Africa. Every time I saw a picture of an Egyptian, they depicted a light-skinned European. I never attributed their great works with my heritage at all. I said, "Oh, that's not, they're Europeans. They're not Africans." But he said, "You probably think that Columbus was the first person to discover America too, don't you? They taught you in 1492 Columbus sailed the ocean blue. That's not true either. He's not the first person to discover America. Columbus just had the best PR at the time." Now, anyhow, I was so excited to learn that the Egyptians had built the pyramids that I ran to my guidance counselor's office and I said, "Hey," I said, I want to go to college. I can be something. This is my heritage. We have the pyramids aligned with the stars. I want to do the same thing." So she sat me down in her office. She told me everything I needed to hear as a 17-year-old, and I didn't want to hear none of it. Anything besides I was going to be accepted to Michigan University, I did not want to hear it. But luckily, her phone rang and she left the office. And when she left the office, I peered out the door to see where she was at, and I looked to my left and there was a black book with gold letters. And that black book read All American Colleges. So I figured I had a couple seconds. I opened the book up and I ripped the page out and I didn't look at it, I just shoved it in my pocket. And she came back to her office, and the conversation from there on was just blah, blah, blah. I pretty much didn't listen to what she had to say, although she did give me some good advice. It was constructive criticism, but I wasn't trying to hear it at that age. But when I did leave the office, I ran downstairs and I pulled a piece of paper out of my pocket and I opened it up and it said, Wayne State College, Nebraska. And I was mad, I was frustrated. I was like, why couldn't this be New York City? Why couldn't it be DC? Why couldn't it be Florida? Why is it got to be Nebraska? What is there, buffaloes and Indians in Nebraska? I didn't know what to expect, but I still dialed the number, 402-375-7000. I said, "How you doing? My name is Jahmal Cole. Do you guys have a basketball team?" "Yes, we have a basketball team." I said, "Hey, do you guys got a business program?" "Yeah, we got a business program." "Okay, send me information. I'm going to make it happen." And I remember that summer getting the acceptance letter about maybe a month and a half later, and I rode around my neighborhood for about a week. I was so excited, and I showed everybody. I was like, "Hey, I'm going to college." And a lot of my friends were like, "Cole, you going to college?" And I ain't going nowhere. I'm staying here. "Why you want to go out to college with those white people? What are you going to do?" "Nah, man, I'm staying here. This is for me." And those are my comrades, my closest friends. But I still, my dad rented a U-Haul truck, and we were able, although I had no no clothes in the back to put in the back. I didn't even have a sweater. At this time of my life, if you'd have showed me a 1996 Blazer, I would have thought it was a Maybach because I had no frame of reference about money at that time of my life. You see, I lived in a small hotel with my father, and we were barely making it. But I was able to get a $500 credit card and take that credit card to college, and we used the whole credit card money on U-Haul gas just getting up there. And when I got up there, I was determined. I had my basketball and I had my rhyme books. That's all I needed. I was like, as long as I have these things, I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna sell some CDs and I'm gonna make money to pay my way through college and buy books. So I got to campus that first week, and I stopped at the coach's office, and I just wanted to introduce myself to him. I said, "How you doing? I'm Jahmal Cole. I'm gonna play for your basketball team." The whole office went quiet. The assistant coaches, the coaches, they looked at me and laughed. They said, "Listen, you're too small. You probably can't jump. Our players are 7 feet tall. Come on. You're not gonna play for our team." I said, "Okay." Every day for the next 2 months, I stopped in his office. Every day, just so I can show my face and say hello to him. And I ended up making the basketball team. And I got to travel the world. Got to travel the country, England, Hawaii. Met a lot of nice people. I remember my sophomore year, my coach says, "Jahmal, you have great work ethic. How come it's not translating into your schoolwork? What are you doing? How come you have a 1.7 grade point average? What's going on with you?" I said, "Hey, coach, I don't have any books." I went to an alternative high school. We didn't have teachers. We had modules. We had overseers. We didn't have books. So this is how I tried to learn in college. Well, he challenged me and he said, "Jahmal, the only thing that's separating you from a straight A student is work ethic." Once I figured out that the only thing separating an A student from a D student is work ethic, I never made anything less than an A. And I went 5 straight semesters on the dean's list in college. And I got all kinds of accolades and awards because of it. And when I graduated college, I wanted to share my story with a lot of people. So I wrote my book, Athletes and MCs. It's actually back there. And really, it's about pushing past peer pressure and rising above that inner city mentality that grips us and has kept so many of us from reaching our potential for far too long. It's about wanting more than your present way of life and taking the action required and the responsibility that's necessary to make it happen. You see, it's time for us to stop settling for the status quo and put a spark in our youth so they'll want to be more, so they can do more, and ultimately they'll have more. But again, it's not going to happen on its own. Without an education, your opportunities are extremely limited. Without a way to provide for your family, people turn to the streets. They join gangs because they want to be a part of something and feel important. Hopefully they don't commit felonies because nothing is going to ruin a future faster than committing a felony. You won't be able to get a job because they won't hire you. You won't be able to join the military, they won't take you. You see, you won't be able to go to college, forget that. You won't get financial aid, especially if the felony was drug related. You won't be able to get welfare, you won't be able to collect unemployment, you won't be able to get food stamps, you won't even be able to vote. You have very limited rights at that point. And I've seen it actually. I've seen it up close and personal. Just about 2 months ago in Black History Month, I was invited to speak at Cook County Jail. And they called me up and they said, "Jahmal, hey, will you speak to the AT unit? We want you to give a motivational speech to these guys. Will you come in and do it?" I said, "Sure, I'll come in and do it." I got there and I was ready to speak to the 18 unit. And they said, no, this is not the 18 unit. This is the AT unit, automatic transfer. I said, "What's automatic transfer?" They said, "These guys are going downstate for murder for 20 plus years, all of them, all 30 of them. We want you to motivate these guys. Do you have a problem with doing that?" Now, anytime you're asked to speak to a room full of murderers or people that have created, who are convicted felons, it's gonna test your moxie a little bit, because it did mine. My anxiety was the highest it's ever been before any speech. But I remember sitting in the room and they all came in, single file, they all came in, and they all came up to me and gave me a hug, said, "What's up, man? What's going on? How you doing?" And as I got to talking to them, I realized that yes, they've made mistakes in their lives. But they were no different than the young men I talk to all the time in colleges and high schools. Some of these kids had great personalities, some of them good physiques. They just were motivated, They made mistakes, but man, guess what they had in common? None of them had ever left Chicago, and they all went to Chicago public school systems. All of them. One of the guys asked me, he said, Jahmal, do you think that it's fair that a judge criticized me and put me in jail for my life, even though he's a man and he's committed sins as well? Is that fair? And I sat there and I thought about it, and I said, you know what? I believe that there are certain market strategies, business promotions, that have been intensified to stimulate consumption in all of American youth. And I think that these market strategies, these business promotions, they especially promote inappropriate sexual behavior, divorce, and violence. And I believe that when you have a group of people that is inadequately educated and they have fewer job opportunities, then they're going to bear the brunt of the chaos caused by the market strategies. Right? Now, this isn't an attempt to make an excuse for black behavior, nor am I trying to absolve us of the personal responsibility it takes to be a good citizen, but this is reality. And if somebody is going to criticize you or condemn you or a group of people, they have to do so being cognizant of the circumstances these people were born into or that they live in. Now, with that said, for the families of the victims, your sentences are definitely deserved, because freedom is not an easy decision. Freedom, every day there's a battle, a constant battle between obligation and inclination. You see? We have to teach these kids, we have to be role models and show them that there's a big difference between reality and entertainment. We have to show them that they have to make decisions to rise above their surroundings, even when nobody else supports them. You see? In order to be successful, you have to view obstacles in your life as detours instead of derailments, and that's what my book, Athletes and MCs, is all about. Thank you again for having me, and I look forward to speaking with you guys in the back about my Torch of Decency book and my Athletes and MCs book. Thanks a lot.